Wake up with the news and information you can trust. Starting your day the right way with the Andy Griffin Show. This is News Radio 890, 92.5 KDXU.
Hey, good morning to you. 9:08 on KDXU. I'm Andy Griffin. This is the Andy Griffin Show. So happy to be here. Stockton is over there. He's going to be taking notes and taking phone calls and doing all the stuff that Stockton does. Steve Dunham is here, though.
Hello.
Steve,
good morning, Andy.
We made it through the summer, Steve.
Yes,
good
we
morning
did.
To you. And, we talked school stuff, and I thought it was some pretty fascinating stuff, but now it's here.
It's here. Parents are rejoicing. Their children are back at school.
I got to tell you, Stockton and I have talked about this a little bit. You do rejoice, but when you take your first child, especially, to the first day of kindergarten.
Oh, it's a little tricky, huh?
That is heart-wrenching.
Oh, yeah.
That is tough, man, because all of a sudden you're going from, this is my little butterfly that I've taken special care of and kept perfect and free from the world. And then you let your butterfly fly loose at school, and you're like, I don't want to do this. Because really, it's the start of them growing up, right?
It's the truth. But what's so hard to help these parents understand is that these kids adapt so quickly, and they're so much better if you just say goodbye, give them a pat on the tush, and walk away. They will get over it. They'll get adjusted to it. They'll make new friends. They're going to love their teachers. They're going to have a good experience, and it's harder on the parents.
It is.
But if you can be strong.
We didn't cry until they were out of sight.
I know. Yeah. If you can be strong for that just few minutes.
Yeah, that's true.
We'll make sure that they're safe.
All right. Well, we got a lot to talk about, including I talked about earlier today. We teased it a little bit. This new Guardian bill. It has to do with keeping our kids safe. We'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. I wanted to maybe just right off the bat, though, Steve, talk about some of the numbers this year. How many students will be going to school in Washington County School District?
Just over 36,000 children.
36,000.
And now if we add into that the preschool kiddos, because we do have quite a significant preschool program, which helps both special needs children and regular education children. It mixes them together so that they have that opportunity to interact with their peers. We're looking at more than 38,000 children in our school district. And that's really amazing, and it's really fun because school buildings, they're lonely without kids. They're lonely, empty places. And so during the summer, our custodians are busy cleaning them, polishing them, getting them tuned up and ready to have that influx of kids. But boy, once the kids are in them, then it just feels like that's what this building's about,
When I moved to St. George in 1994, might have been 93. We my wife and I go back, and was it 93? Anyway, the total population of St. George was 33,000.
Holy
cow. And you said how many students? 36,000?
36,000.
So there are going to be more school kids than there were total population in the city when I moved here. That's crazy.
I don't know what the population of St. George is now, but I believe
about 100.
I believe the whole county is 180.
Yeah, the county's
for Washington County.
Yeah, you're right.
So
it's wild.
It's fun. It's exciting. But like I say, we're excited to have the kiddos back. We try to put things in place to make it easy, safe, everything we can so that it's a good experience for learning.
Steve, of course, representing the Washington County School District. He is, what's your official title? The Media Relation, I don't know.
I'm the Director of Communications is my official title.
Okay.
And then I'm also over our foundation. So I'm also the Director of our foundation, so I help raise money for our teachers as well.
What in the summertime versus when school's in, how does your day-to-day change?
Oh, my goodness. In the summertime is when we get caught up on all of the paperwork. Okay. Because during the day when kids are in schools, there's so many things happening. We have 53 buildings with children in them.
53.
And so you can imagine when you have this many children in this many buildings, there are things that pop up that we have to deal with almost every single day. If not every day, then multiple times a week.
Right.
And so it takes you away from all of the chores that you need to do throughout the year. And sometimes those will pile up. You'll scoot them to the side and okay, let's get this one taken care of.
Right.
Let's get this one taken care of. And so the summer is your chance to hopefully get caught up on all those things. And for a lot of teachers, a lot of administrators, a little bit of professional development. We want to learn about new things. We have to be updated on the new legislation, things of that nature. And so we'll try and do that as well.
It sounds like you, during the school year, a lot of your work is putting out figurative fires.
Yes.
And during the summer, you're restocking the fire supply shelf.
That's correct. We put out fires, but we also tell good news. There's a lot of good things that happen in our buildings, and we really like to share it. We want the parents to know that you're hearing stuff on national news, and that's not Washington County. That's not us. We're a very conservative county that is very concerned about teaching the kids with the values we have here in our community. And so we don't want parents to think about that, but that's why we want to share the good news, all the good things happening in our buildings.
Now, how long, Steve, have you been working in schools, with the schools?
In schools here or schools
Just
in general? Overall, it has been, 16, 17 years.
Wow. Okay. How have things, and I talk, so I do sports.
Yeah.
And I talk to coaches all the time, and I talk about how things have changed in the sporting arena. How things have changed for you in the last 16, 17 years?
If I'm honest, I'd say parents have gotten more particular about what they want. They've been more demanding, and we can't always offer everything that a parent wants. A common thread is, well, I want my child to have this class and this class, which are two good classes. Unfortunately, they're offered at the same time. Yeah. And unfortunately, we can't space them out because our schools are full to the point that we need the other classes for the other subjects and everything. So it doesn't always align. We just need people to be patient with us and realize that we can't offer everything for everyone, everything they want.
If you ever went to college, and I know you did, and I did, sometimes that's the reality of things. You got two required classes you have to have for your major. Guess what? They're at the same time. So you're going to have to take one now and take another one next fall or whatever. That's just the way it is.
Exactly right. The other thing that we really hope parents could understand is we put things in place for the safety of their children. So when we ask for your ID or ask you to sign out or sign in when you're coming into our buildings, it's for the safety of the kids. And boy, some parents get so offended at that. And please don't get offended. These are things we've put in place for the safety of your children. You don't want some stranger coming into the building without having to sign in, without us being able to know who they are and see their ID or check your kids out, for crying out loud. We couldn't do that, but some parents get so offended at that. And it's like, please don't. It's for the safety.
One of the guys that I became friends with on my recent vacation just retired from teaching. He was up in Alpine School District. He said, I was asking about cell phones and kids, and he said one of the sad realities is I get this all the time. He said, I got this all the time. Is a kid will be on the phone texting his parents, and his parents will say, I'm outside, come out now.
Yeah.
And the kid is in class. He's not in the office. He hasn't been checked out.
Nope.
And the kid's like, I got to go. My mom's waiting. I got to go. My dad's out there. I got to go right now. And that's a frustration, right?
That's a frustration for a parent, but for us, it's pure safety.
Yeah.
We cannot let a child out of the building to go with somebody we don't even know who it is. Yeah. That would be foolish. That'd be negligent on our part.
Well, I mean, if you even just read some headlines, some 30-year-old predator has a 14-year-old girlfriend who's in a school who said, I'll just pretend I'm your parent and I'll get you out of school. So you've got to have those safety checks.
And that's a great example of why we have a specific list of who is on your checkout list. If that person is not on your checkout list, we're not letting the child go with them.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. I think that's important.
And so parents, be patient. You can't send a neighbor to pick up your friend. They're not on the checkout list. We're going to say, nope, sorry, can't do it. And you got to be patient with us. It's for their safety.
We like safety.
We like safety a lot.
All right, let's dive into a couple of the other numbers. You mentioned 53 schools, 30-something thousand students. What's the biggest school in Washington County School District?
Oh, my goodness. I wasn't prepared for that question. I want to say...
It used to be Snow Canyon was the biggest, but not anymore, right?
No, it could be Dixie, but
Dixie High?
We're all really close. They are all really close.
Approximately between 1,000 and 1,200?
Yeah, it's right around 1,200. I'd say it's between 1,200 and 1,300. Okay. It's closer to that.
And does that include Hurricane? Does that include Pineview?
Hurricane is up there, yes. Pineview might be 1,100 and change. I don't know if they're over 1,200. I should have looked at the stats. I apologize, Andy. I'll be prepared next month, though.
No worries.
But yes, they're all right in that neighborhood. I think Hurricane is right around 1,100 as well. So, they're all right there.
In Iron County, and I know you're not an Iron County guy, but I know they include 9th grade in their high schools. And so even though Cedar is actually comparable size-wise to our schools here, they have an extra grade added in there, and I don't think people realize that. So I know I've talked to a couple of the coaches, and they're like, it's not fair because we're the same size as them, but we have one more grade, and that's just the way it is, Coach. Sorry.
That's exactly right. Our board has really felt strongly that they like the 4-school system where you have elementary, intermediate, middle, and high.
Yeah.
And you separate those ages as kids are transitioning in life and learning about who they are and learning about their education system. So they're with peers that are closer to their age. Some of our parents and our board members have felt that they don't want 9th graders interacting with seniors. And so, that makes sense.
And next level down, do you really want a 6th grader in the same school as an 8th grader?
Yeah.
An 11-year-old in the same school as a 14-year-old? I don't think so.
Anytime you have dramatic age differences like that, you have opportunities for intimidation or bullying or things of that nature. And if we can reduce that and, again, make the school safer, a little bit more pleasant, a better learning environment, we're going to try and do that.
All right, let's talk about career tech a little bit. I talked with a guy at the airport in Vegas when we got back from our trip. He is going to something, I think he called it Nevada State School or something like that. It's a dual immersion type school where you're getting, not dual immersion language, dual immersion, that's not the right word. You get college credits at the same time you're going to high school.
So it's like Success Academy that we have here.
Kind of like that. But I was telling him about career tech. And he's like, ooh, that sounds pretty cool, where you can learn a trade and get prepared for either going to a junior college or maybe even going right into a career.
The workforce, yeah.
So how is career tech? Is it growing? Is it bigger?
It is the same. We're almost capped out there. We're doing really well. They've recruited the kiddos, and the kiddos are coming into the pathways, and they're finding the things they enjoy. They're finding the things that they're passionate about. In fact, one of the pathways, our education pathway, we established to kind of create our own pipeline. We're starting to hire those children while they're going to career tech so they can, we're paying them to learn to be educators while they're learning it, and they're working in our schools, and they're having practical experiences.
That's awesome.
And studies show the more time that these education students get in a classroom with practical application of what they're learning, the longer they will be teachers, or the better chance they'll stay longer as in the teaching profession. And so it's really good for us, it's good for them, and they're really finding out if this is something for them.
Okay, so let's talk about ages now. We know approximately the sizes of the high schools. What about the younger kids? Really, it's almost a different generation. You have your 10, 11, 12th graders.
Yep.
Now you got your kindergarten, first and second graders. Is there a bigger group at that younger age now, or is it about the same?
No, typically in a school system, it is a bigger group. Your grades, if you can imagine a Christmas tree, and your 12th graders are the top of the tree, your kindergartners are the bottom of the tree, and it's wider at the bottom, and then it tapers down as it goes up. Okay. That's the ideal system in education.
So what happens to them? You know what I mean? Like, is it they just filter out into different schools, or they
filter out into different schools? They filter out into It's not that they drop out; it's that they move on to whether it's other areas. That's just kind of how it is. Like you have and maybe it's because of how we built it in our cone site, so that you have so many schools, and maybe that's the way I should have phrased it, is we have so many kindergartners in a cone site. So for the Dixie High cone site, we have so many elementary schools that feed up to the Dixie High that we have the kindergartners from 3 different elementaries, and then it gets down to the intermediates, and then down to the middle school, and then down to the high school. And so by the time they're up there, your graduating class is, 300 or 400 kiddos.
Right. Okay. Makes sense. Any other numbers that you wanted to point out and talk about?
Goodness.
I know you have 2 pages of stuff.
I got 2 pages of stuff, but it's for some of the other stuff. And,
all right. We are going to talk about Guardians a little bit. In fact, I guess we can talk about that a little bit right now. Let's jump into it. House Bill 84, I think it is.
House Bill 84, that's correct.
This is interesting. So, obviously, countrywide, we are concerned about school shootings.
Yes.
And never was it more magnified than the Uvalde thing down in Texas when, you say what you want about it. Most people will say the police did not go in quickly enough and didn't take care of it. But the magnification is that this happens.
Yeah.
A lot of people, a lot of parents, understandably so, are concerned. They're like, I don't want to send my kid to school one day and have him never come home. So this House Bill 84, dubbed the Guardian Bill,
yes,
attempts to address that. In what way, Steve?
What it does is it provides an opportunity, well, actually a requirement by law, that every school will have 2 guardians that are armed guardians. That's correct. And they cannot be a teacher or an administrator, somebody that has direct responsibility over the children, because those people have to focus on watching out for the kids in their care. So it can be a bus driver, it can be a secretary, it can be a lunch worker, it can be, did I already say custodian? No. A custodian. It can be one of these other people, and it provides an opportunity for specific training for them, a stipend, at least a one-time stipend, and really the training on how to respond and provide a layer of defense so law enforcement can arrive before they arrive. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so that's really what this is about, is providing for safety of your children with people that are trained. And our county has really doing it right by working with the sheriff's department. Sergeant Kilpack from the sheriff's office has been named as his title is the county security chief. And they are looking at this saying, hey, HB 84, the Guardian Bill, says we have to train to a specific level. And he said, well, that's great. We're going to get to that level, and we're going to go beyond. And we're going to train to this much higher level because we want to ensure that these people are ready, confident, and prepared to address an incident if it were to happen in our community. And it comes back to safety, Andy. It's about providing a safe environment for these children.
Obviously, some red flags come up, and I know that the legislature has tried to address them. Number one would be, how do we know this person has been vetted enough? What we don't want is somebody who's maybe mentally unstable or whatever, filling one of these jobs. And maybe, do you have some more information on that?
I do. You know, there are 3 different phases of becoming a guardian. Okay. And you identify, people will apply, and they'll be identified, and they will go through, first through a concealed weapons class. The second phase is a mental health evaluation, and that's outlined in the bill.
It's important.
Yes, it really is. And they will be evaluated by a person in the community, an evaluator in the community, who will address, this person can cut it, no, this person cannot. And phase 3 will be the practical training. So again, they are looking at all these scenarios saying, okay, do they have the permits to carry? Are they mentally capable of handling a stressful situation? And then phase 3 is, okay, now we're going to train you, put you in these scenarios, and make sure that, the check marks we've gotten from before are going to continue on, and you're going to be prepared, you're going to be confident, ready to respond, and able to help out the law enforcement partners. Because really it comes down to providing time for law enforcement to arrive. They always say that if they can have somebody interface with that bad guy and slow them down to give them time to respond,
it'll save lives.
Yeah. That's exactly right. And that's what this is about, is saving lives.
Anybody that's listened to this show knows I am a gun advocate. I believe that, and I've had some of my gun experts come on and say, look, most of these shooters don't want to be challenged.
Yes.
They go to,
they want the easy shots.
Yeah, the analogy is they're going to go swat a butterfly. They're not going to swat a bee because a bee might sting them back. And so for me, I'm like, this is a fantastic idea. There are, though, going to be critics and people who say, wait a minute, we got kids, we got guns, we got these things shouldn't mix. Why are we doing this? And I guess we can understand their concerns because things could go wrong, I suppose, but that's why I guess all that training that you're talking about is taking place.
That's exactly right. It comes down to the training. The weapon has to be maintained on that person throughout the day. It's not that it can be set down. It's not that it can be.
Don't put it down.
No, that would violate the basic premise of a concealed weapon.
Yeah.
And you can't do that. And the training is critical because it's not about more guns in school. It's about more people better trained to respond and provide for the safety of our students.
So it's not going to be guys standing around the hallways with AKs.
No,
right?
heavens no.
When we went to visit one of the cathedral squares in, I think this was in Strasbourg, there were dotted around the square were guys in camo and full military gear holding AK-47s, I'm a pro-gun guy, but I have to admit I was a little bit nervous having all these young people with these automatic rifles in the square. And so, in my mind, when you first talked about guardian bills, I'm thinking, oh, yeah, you're going to have some dude standing around with a rifle, and that's not how it's going to be.
No, it's really not. It's more about knowing that, hey, our schools are not an easy target. They're not a soft target, as they say. And we're providing a way for our officers to arrive quickly and address the threat and have some communication on the inside to help them get there and say, hey, we're over at this side of the building and this is where you need to come in and this is where we'll be. So
they'll be equipped with radios, some kind of communication device, cell phone, whatever it is?
They will be equipped with whatever the community feels like they need to effectively accomplish their position in as a guardian.
Where is the money going to come from to train and to hire these people?
Now, the state, again, it's kind of a volunteer thing. They only get a one-time stipend. I believe it's a $500 stipend, and that can go towards their gun or a safe or whatever they choose. But
so they're working for free, kind of.
They really are,
okay.
And that's why it's kind of a volunteer-type position. They felt like that in the state they would have enough support from people wanting to do this because they've gotten feedback that people want to help out in our schools and provide for the safety of their children. As far as the training, I believe the state is covering all that cost. So that's where the funds that the state is allocated is going towards the training.
One of the things that I experienced while my kids were in elementary school in particular was a lack of volunteers. I was very disappointed. The teacher would ask, I need parents to come help me do this. And I was a volunteer almost every year not because I necessarily wanted to, but because nobody else would do it.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, do you think this is going to be a problem if you ask guys, hey, we would like you to come and be a guardian to school. You might have to give your life to save a child. Do you think people are going to be like, not doing that?
I don't know. I don't know how many people will come from outside the community, outside of the school system. I think we'll have a lot more from within that are already employees that may already have their concealed carry permits and then feel like, oh, yeah, I can do these additional trainings and I'm already getting paid to do my job here in the building. And then I can continue on. In fact, I believe we're about 2/3 to 3/4 already staffed with the guardians we need for our buildings right now. And so, we're still recruiting amongst our employees first. Anybody that wants to be a guardian
but it can't be a teacher or administrator.
It can't be a teacher.
Cannot be one of the one of those. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff. All right, got to get a commercial break in and a weather check. We're talking with Steve Dunham, Washington County School District, about guardians and about some of the numbers involved in the schools. Let's do a weather break, and we'll be back with more with Steve after this.
Wake up with the news and information you can trust. This is the Andy Griffin Show on News Radio 890, 92.5 KDXU, Southern Utah's News Talk leader.
Welcome back to the program, talking with Steve Dunham from the Washington County School District today. If you would like to ask Steve a question about, curriculum or guardians or anything, you can call us at 673-5890. That's 435-673-5890. If you prefer to text and don't want to go on the air, you can text me always at 435-467-5842. All right.
And I may not know every single answer about the Guardian Bill. I'm learning about it. I've been learning about it the last couple of weeks. So I just want to preface that.
Our tour guide on the Europe trip said, never let the truth get in the way of a good story.
Oh,
now I don't believe that. I'd rather stick with the truth, but I could see her point.
I will tell you if I don't know the answer, and I will promise to follow up. Okay.
Do you see, Steve, talking about the Guardian program, some hiccups. Do you see, and first of all, I commend you and Washington County School District for being kind of leaders in this, going, all right, we're getting after this. We're not waiting till somebody says go. We're going to go already and get this ready, because technically you don't have to have it in place till next August.
That's correct. We have 1 year before it needs to be in place. The flip side is that we know if we start now, we can start working through the bugs, and we can find all the people we need, so we're completely in compliance by having the 2 guardians in every single building that has the children in it.
And that's what I was going to ask about, was the bugs. Do you anticipate, or maybe not do you, but what kind of hiccups do you think will happen along the way?
I think the other hiccups will come down to training, which is why working with Sergeant Kilpack, we will ensure that people are overtrained. You know, he talks about, in one of the messages he gave us, the practical training will include a therapist, a local doctor. His name's Dr. Matt Eschler. He works in the private sector, but closely with law enforcement. He's going to come in and give some physiological and psychological training to the guardians, so they have an understanding of what's going to happen to them in the event they have to act. They will understand what their body's going to go through, what they're going to feel, the emotions, the after effects of all of that, and help them through that. That's really important. It's one thing to say, here, you're trained, go out there and do it. But if you have that extra support to say, okay, you're trained, and if you have to do it, this is what you're going to feel, and this is how you're going to respond, and these are some of the side effects that you're going to feel in your body for having to do that, from that adrenaline dump, from that stress, from that anxiety of a situation, a high stress, life or death situation. Yeah. This is what you're going to feel, and how are you going to cope with that afterwards? And then knowing that you're going to have that support afterwards. These are some of the things we're trying to be proactive about and recognize, hey, if we can get these people trained, they will be prepared, equipped, and ready to act, which will make them effective guardians. It will be how the law was intended, and they can really make a difference on saving lives.
A text from Rick. Rick says, he's being a little, I think, tongue-in-cheek. He says, how do you make sure you don't let these psychos on campus with guns?
Yeah. Well, that comes to background checks and the psychological exams that will take place. So, there are some things that are going to take place so that we don't do that. You're exactly right. But again, it starts with, we're going to recruit from within our own employee base. They pass background checks. A lot of our employees already have concealed carry permits. Yeah. I've commented on some of our buildings, and I can tell you which are our safest buildings based upon how many guys I know. Not just guys. There's a lot of females that have concealed carry permits here in Washington County.
Is there a policy for those people? Can they bring if they have a concealed carry permit? Can they bring them on campus?
The law is very clear that a concealed carry permit is valid everywhere except a courthouse or a jail. Okay. It works. Your weapon has to remain within your possession, within your control, and concealed at all times.
At all times.
Yeah. Okay. But other than that, they are within the law to do that. And the reality of it is they've already gone through some training. They've already gone through some preparation. So it's just a few additional steps that we're asking them to go through to become guardians.
School teachers. Now, you said they're not eligible to be guardians, teachers.
No.
But they are eligible to have a concealed carry permit. And
that is correct.
Technically could have a concealed firearm.
That is correct. However, their primary responsibility is for the safety of their children and to oversee the children that are in their care, the students in their care. And so it's not to go out and confront a bad guy. It is to watch over the students that are in their class.
We have seen videos and pictures of teachers who have made the ultimate sacrifice for their kids. And there's one, I think it was Columbine High School. A teacher went into a lunchroom and did his best to clear that lunchroom out and tell them bad guys were coming, while the bad guys came and killed him.
Yeah.
And so there are definitely teachers out there who are willing to, I think a majority of teachers, not all of them, but a majority of teachers would be willing to do whatever it takes to save their children.
There's a lot of them. They care about these kids. Yeah. As they're not their own children, yet they care about them very deeply. They have a connection with these kids. And the teachers do what they do because they love teaching. They love helping children learn. They love seeing that light go on. They love that connection. It's not because they're making a ton of money. They're not. And so there has to be another reward, and that reward is the emotional benefit of seeing a child grow, seeing a child go, oh, I finally figured it out, you know? That's the reward that makes teachers keep putting up with what they put up with, which can often be demanding parents, frustrating kids. It can be all of that, yet they still continue on.
If you think about, say, a third grade teacher who spends, third grade, elementary is different from high school. High school, you might have 7 classes and have 7 different teachers.
Yeah.
The younger kids, you have one teacher. You might have a music teacher or a PE teacher that has you for a few minutes during the day. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, you got one teacher who is with your kid all day long.
Yeah.
If that teacher is with your kid, say, 6 hours, how long are you with your kid that evening?
Yeah.
4 or 5 before bedtime, maybe less.
Yeah.
So, they're spending a lot of time in getting to know and love your kid, maybe almost as much as you do.
They're getting to learn what makes them tick, how they learn, and they're also learning, hey, this kind of triggers Bobby. Let's not do this, or I'm going to separate Sally and Mary here because they talk a little bit too. They're learning all of this, and so they have all these dynamics that they're working with in their classroom. And from us, we just call it classroom management. And from a parent, they're like, oh, so-and-so is such a great teacher. They really helped out. And that comes down to classroom management, to training, to professional development, and to an innate ability by our teachers to care about their students.
Let me ask you your opinion on something now. Is this asking too much of a school employee, say a custodian who wants to maybe qualify and become a guardian? And the analogy I make, there have been some theater shootings in our country. Imagine if the manager went to all his theater employees and said, I need a couple of you to volunteer to be a guardian for our theater. And I would imagine, and with movie theaters, of course, they're not college-trained, professionals. Usually they're kids, an 18-year-old kid or whatever. But I imagine most of them would be like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Is it asking too much, do you think?
I can't answer that, Andy. Honestly, I from my perspective, you're asking for my opinion on something that I just can't speak to. This is a law. The legislature passed the law. They're saying we have to do it. What happens if nobody volunteers inside a school? Then what? I can't answer that.
Good point.
And so, is it asking too much? I guess then that's the point where it is asking too much. If nobody volunteers to do this, then it's asking too much. But I can't tell you what my perspective is. It's the law that the legislature's passed.
I just wonder if, and I know the person that elects to be a guardian, they're not in it for the money, but I just wonder if the carrot were a little bigger, if they were a paid employee, if that would maybe motivate some more people to do it. And we don't know yet. We have no idea. You might be overwhelmed with all of it. There might be so many you'll have to tell half of them no.
There might be.
We don't know that. Yet, but I just wonder if the state legislature is going to say you have to have guardians in every school. Well, maybe the state legislature needs to find some money to pay these guys.
That's true, and that's a discussion to be had later, and discussion to be had by our legislature.
How will the guardians, if they're not a school employee already, a custodian or a secretary or whatever, you bring a guardian in, how will they interact in the school? I mean, that's one of the things. I'm like, how in the world there's a strange guy walking around the halls?
I can't answer that at this point. The law says the guardians are not supposed to be identified. And
good luck with that.
I know. So if you have somebody that's not an employee and in the building, well, that's going to be a pretty quick sign.
Yeah.
However, maybe they're going to be volunteering, in our younger grades to read with kids and do reading groups and do some of these other things. Maybe they're going to be, I don't know, snoozing with their head down on a table. I can't answer that.
Yeah.
But again, they're volunteers. They're not district employees at that point, and I can't answer what they would be doing. It's not like we can force them to take up a job in the building. So I don't know all the quirks of the bill.
Interesting. All right, we're going to talk more about that. I got another commercial break I got to get in here. We always say it goes so fast.
It does.
But I do want to ask when we come back, Steve, about school resource officers, how they fit into that whole plan. And maybe you can give me your theories when we come back, though.
Perfect. I'll save it for then.
Little teaser. So, right now I want to talk about Angelica's Mexican Grill. Angelica's, as always, is AG approved. Now, it's great food and a great experience. If you know Angelica, if you don't know Angelica, you should get to know her. She's awesome. But she was born in Mexico, was a Mexican citizen. She came to the U.S., got her official immigration and qualification and naturalization. She took the test. She is an American citizen now. But, that doesn't erase her roots. And she has a recipe book from her and her family with all this incredible, authentic Mexican food. And if you've been to Angelica's, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't been there, please just go give it a try. Trust me on this one. It's great food and a great experience at Angelica's Mexican Grill, the most popular Mexican restaurant in St. George. They're located right downtown at 101 East and St. George Boulevard. They have all the Mexican, they have, they got the tacos and the burritos, but they also have a couple of special items that, like the Mexican street corn, the quesadilla. I love the mulita, which is basically a quesadilla made with cornflour shells instead of wheat flour shells. And their food it's amazing. It's all at Angelica's Mexican Grill. Check them out again at 101 East St. George Boulevard. If you want to read more about it, you can go to angelicasmexicangrill.com. Angelica's is AG approved.
All the latest news, weather, traffic, and sports, just like you like them. You're waking up with the Andy Griffin Show on News Radio 890, 92.5 KDXU, Southern Utah's news talk leader.
All right, a couple of things I want to make clear about the Guardian program. It is a law. Starts next August, not this month, but a year from now.
2025.
And it basically, to just kind of the long and short of it is armed guards on campuses on every school, not just high schools, in every school.
Every school that has more than so many children in it. And I don't know what that number is, so that means every charter, every private, every school. Every school has to have that.
Now, how do we know the high schools have school resources, SROs we call them.
Yep.
How does that fit in with all this?
They obviously have to interact very well. I don't know if a school resource officer takes place
Would it count as one
of those or not. That I don't know the answer to. But they have to interact with them, and they have to be able to know who their guardians are, so that when they're responding or if they're responding to an incident.
Hopefully they never will. But.
Yes. The guardian is then stand down, get out, and the law enforcement take over. Because they're not interfacing with the SROs during an incident, other than to provide time for the police to respond and interact and engage.
Yeah. Last thing we need is SRO to shoot one of the guardians because he didn't know he was a guardian and he has a gun.
Exactly.
So we don't want that.
No, and that's the danger of also any person with a concealed carry when you have an incident like that in a building, is if an officer responds and they're looking for a bad guy with a gun and they see somebody with a gun, well, that can turn very bad very quickly.
Tricky situation.
Yes.
For sure. All right, got a couple of texts about grandpas and about age limits. Is there an age limit for a guardian at this point in the bill?
I don't know that there's an age limit. Now I say I don't know because I have not read the whole bill, but I believe the intent of the bill is that if they're physically able and have passed all of the training, the 3 levels of training, then they can be potentially a guardian.
Give us the levels of training again.
The levels of training are first, concealed and carry. Second, the psychological evaluation. And third, the physiological. They put them through the actual scenarios to see how they respond, how their body responds. Are they physically fit? And the post response of physiologically, how did this affect me? How did this affect me mentally? All of those things.
So theoretically, the third part, they might put them in a facade, a fake school, reacting to bad situations. And if they are, say, elderly, they may not react quickly enough or maybe not have the faculties or ability to react right.
But that being said, I'm not aware of there being an age restriction. And like I say, I think our first intent is to work through school employees so that we have a role for all of those people so they can stay anonymous and protecting our students.
All right. And as far as I remember, after the Uvalde shooting and a couple of other situations happened, there was memes and things being shared on social media basically saying, hey, I know a military veteran that would love to just go stand guard on campus. Now, the picture that accompanied the meme often was a guy in a flak jacket with a rifle standing outside the school. That's not going to happen, folks.
No.
That's a bad idea.
Yeah.
So military vets, do you think that this is a role that they could fulfill?
I honestly don't know, and I can't speak to that. That is something for our county security chief to decide. If we don't get enough employees that are volunteering, then I'd imagine, again, I don't know the details, but I would imagine they would look outside and see who is interested in fulfilling these roles in these facilities so that we can come into compliance.
Steve, you're a pretty conservative, mellow guy. Does this scare you a little bit, talking about putting guns in schools?
It doesn't, because we're talking about putting a trained individual in a school. It's not about guns. It's about a person who has been trained to help protect our children. They're already working there, and we're just providing for the safest environment possible. So honestly, it does not concern me or bring out, oh no, more guns in schools. No, it's not about guns in school. It's about having people who are trained, ready to respond to a threat and provide life-saving measures. When I say life-saving measures, not to go do CPR, but to confront a bad person and to delay long enough that law enforcement can arrive and handle the situation, or they can handle it on their own. Time is the enemy when you have a bad person in the school. And so if you have a person on campus ready to respond, they're providing time, and time means more children are saved.
It seems like on the surface and from what we've learned so far, this is a fantastic idea. I'm just worried about any kind of potential bugs or issues or things that might come up that honestly, a lot of them, I could say, what bugs are going to come up? And you could say, well, we don't know.
We don't know.
Because they haven't come up yet.
But that's why we've jumped on this so quickly, so that we have a year to figure out what those bugs are. And I think a lot of the state is looking to us to say, hey, Washington County School District is doing this. Let's follow them because they're working out the bugs. I would rather, this is what Superintendent Bergeson, our previous superintendent, always used to say, we'd rather make dust than eat it.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. In this situation...
Love Larry. How's he doing, buddy?
He's doing great. Okay, I run into him every now and then on my morning walks. But anyway, we really do. We want to make sure that we are on top of this. It's too important. Your children are too important to screw this up.
Agreed.
And so we're trying to be the best we can be. It's amazing. I wish our taxpayers and our parents knew how often people from other parts of the state look to Washington County, because we are figuring it out to lead the way, because we're down here, we're isolated, we're alone. We have to figure it out. We have to make it work, and we want to make it work right.
You said earlier in the show 53 schools at least.
Yes.
That means 106 trained people, guardians by next August.
Yep.
That's a big task. There's a lot of training, a lot of testing, a lot of things have to happen between now and next August. Will we be ready?
I think we will. And I've talked with Sergeant Kilpack from the Sheriff's Office. I've talked with our sheriff, and they are on this 100%. Our own district person who's in charge of this, he's actually former law enforcement as well. And so we have the tools, working with our school resource officers from all of our agencies here in Washington County. We can make this happen. We can easily make this happen.
I've got 1 minute. I want to ask you, did you have something else?
Yeah, I want to talk about our SROs before we go.
Let's do it. Yeah, SROs.
Okay, so our school resource officers from St. George City, they were recognized nationally as some of the very best school resource officers in the nation.
Nice.
That is so huge, because we talk about situations that, are they going to respond in time? Oh, is this going to work out? Yes, it is going to work out, because we have officers in our buildings that are trained, that drill, that are prepared, and they've been recognized as the best in the nation. I'm so honored to work with these officers from the St. George City Police Department. And that filters into all of our community departments who work in all of our schools, whether they're in Hurricane. We have the very best down here. They are awesome.
One of the other many great reasons to live where we live.
That's the truth.
Yeah. Steve, thanks so much for coming on today.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
A few minutes. I think more questions will arise, and as you address the problems or whatever that come with The Guardians, we'll talk about them as they come. But I feel like we're on the right track.
And as parents have questions, they can call us at the district or email us. We'll address them.
Very good. He's Steve Dunham. I'm Andy Griffin. Thanks for
Andy.
listening. See ya.